Welcome to, we are in part 4, Rebuild, session 2. So we've already had a really good, we've been chatting in the Zoom room actually for 45 minutes. And we often do in this middle session, we don't record those discussions, but we have discovered as a group that when we attend the live sessions, it's really important to have a space for people who want to share, connect, support. And so we created that space. So today we are going to look back at the poses that we've been looking at recently. Then check in about those. Then have a restorative practice, which means that you will either be seated or lying down, and you will probably not get up. You might move from lying down to seated and back to lying down or to tabletop, but you won't be standing. Next week is the practice that we'll do more standing. After the restorative practice, we will have a guided meditation. And yes, next week is a practice, followed by meditation, followed by creativity. So I'm going to move over there for a start. You never have to dress in any special clothes, but especially in a restorative practice, you have to make sure that you're warm enough. And so I will be keeping my fluffy socks on. So the poses that we've been looking at recently, and an overlap with Mindful Mondays, but we've been looking at yes and no. And I was thinking about yes pose as it leads into enthusiasm, no pose as it leads into pushing, which also leads into yes, and entering in. So as a reminder, our yes pose, the front leg is straight, the back leg is a little bent, hands are out to the side. We're not in a back bend, the spine is straight, but the body has a sense of being open. And there is a sense of acceptance, a sense of what it is that you might be saying yes to. And we've talked about this in terms of if it's familiar or where we'd like to say yes. And it could be anything. And as we've been talking about, it might be yes to prioritizing you. Yes to self-care. And when we say no, we're saying yes to something else. So feeling into that again and noticing how it feels. Even difficult things we say yes to because we accept the situation before we move on, and even if we want to change it, there's an initial need to say yes and acknowledge before we develop a plan. Now, where yes becomes enthusiasm, and enthusiasm isn't all good and it's not all bad. There's a sense of throwing back the arms and lifting through the chest. There's a sense of a back bend here, lifting up to the sky. And the danger with enthusiasm is the galloping horses that we've talked about. There's a beauty in enthusiasm, and I certainly am not suggesting you should not be enthusiastic. And the things that we are passionate about, we approach with a yes, a real yes. And you can even run and jump. I've got photographs of me trying to jump in midair to do this pose. I'll post those in the group for a yes. But we have to consider when that serves us and when we may need to bring it back a little to a yes. Even when we're giving away our energy, we can say yes to enthusiastically. Somebody needs help, somebody needs support, somebody needs something doing. Yes, yes, yes. We may need to bring it back and remember ourselves and yes, yes, but yes. And then have a little wiggle, have a little shake. Think no. So as you'll remember, the front knee is bent, the back leg is strong, one arm down by the waist, the other arm is bent, hand out in front, sort of above your chest bone, your sternum, The feet are supposed to be a bit wider, but I encourage you to find where it's comfortable. And this is our no. And it might be a gentler no. 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 And thinking about what we might want to say no to. Think about where we might need more no. No. And thinking about how no to something can lead to yes. No, I can't do that. No, I won't do that. I can do it, but it's not the right thing for me to do. But yes, I can do this. And no, I can't do that, or no, I won't do that isn't a bad thing. That can be a good thing. It can be a protective thing. And no into pushing. Same setup. Arms as though you're pushing a vehicle. We did this on Mindful Monday, so there's a bit more exploration there. Pushing. And again, we were talking about how this relates to not just to saying no, because it's good if you need a strong no, but it's also good for drive, for determination. No, but it's also a yes. Which is where it gets confusing, because you might push forward with drive and determination to say yes. You might push something away, but push towards something else. So where we might need to push more, or we might need to back off. And as we were talking about, this is not black and white. We're not suggesting you need to say no to everybody and only yes to you. Sometimes saying yes to you allows you to say yes to other people. And often when we're talking about self-care, we think about how self-care underpins everything else we do. Because if we don't say yes to self-care, if we don't prioritise looking after us first, we will be unable to do those things for other people. So this is about developing your awareness about what you say yes to, what you say no to, what you might want to shift or have a bit more fluidity, so that you can make choices. So you can maybe change the direction in some of the things that you do. There's a lot there. We'll come back to them. We'll have a shimmy, have a shake, have a wiggle, have a tap, have a proper shake, anything. Shake them off. Okay. We are going to have a restorative practice, so I invite you to either sit or lie down. So we're going to start lying down or resting in your chair. If you're lying down, an invitation to have a bolster or pillows or folded blankets under your knees so that you have support. And if you're seated, you might want to lift your feet onto a block so that there's a sense of greater support in your legs, or onto a footstool, or have your feet on a different chair. But otherwise, lie down and find where you feel most supported. Pull a blanket over yourself if that feels good for you. If you have a pillow under your head, make sure it's not too thick. You don't want to have your neck too bent, but you might want a little bit of support under the head. And allow yourself, in whichever position you're in, to sink and soften. as we do with centering, notice, have awareness around you. Notice the air temperature, any sounds in the distance or nearby. I can hear the breeze and wind chimes today. And then notice what's supporting you. If you're seated, you might feel under your legs and thighs, under your pelvis, under your feet, your back. If you're lying down, you'll feel the same but with a different emphasis. And perhaps you can soften a little bit more here. Now, sometimes when we have a restorative practice, our mind can resist connecting to us as a whole. Our mind can be off on its own, saying, okay, what's the next pose? What's the next pose? What are we doing? What are we doing? You are exactly where you need to be. Each time we move and shift and find a different posture, or even a tiny shift in posture, you are exactly where you need to be. Notice your feet, your lower legs and knees and thighs. The hips and pelvis. The length of the spine, shoulders. Arms and hands. Allow yourself to sink into the ground here. Let gravity hold you, support you. We'll be here for another couple of minutes. If you're lying down, Perhaps you can bend one knee and then the other and bring your feet flat. You might push your cushion away or even pull it to the side of your body. If you're seated, if your feet were on something, you might settle them back down. And then if you're lying down, an invitation to bring your knees into your chest. Have a little rock side to side. If you're seated, take your hands to your chest and take your chest a little towards your knees. So you're just bending forward a little, allowing your body to rock a little if you wish. And if you're seated, come back up. Let your feet be flat. And we're going to take a twist in either position. So, if you're lying down, have a bolster, a cushion on your left side. Stretch out your right leg. You might shift your hips a little over to the right and then encourage your right knee across the body to land onto the bolster or cushion. If you are seated, turn your knees to the left. So you have the same gentle twist in the body. And you can stay there, or you can allow your body to fold out and your arms stretch out. If your knee comes up off the floor, you can add, well, first of all, it doesn't matter, but you can add another cushion if you wish. You can even pull a pillow or cushion up against your body on the right so you can roll onto it. So find the twist that's right for you. It should be gentle. For these practices, we are never looking at the end range of movement. You should never be feeling like you're at maximum stretch. If you do that, if you notice you do that, come back and allow yourself to tune into the much more subtle sensations so that you can be fully supported and fully relaxed. If you're not supported and you're not relaxed, it's not restorative yoga. And then here, have a little scan through your body and see where you, as a body, can soften a little more. Sink a little more. If you find your mind wandering on a story, gently guide it back as though you're taking a friend by the hand. Lead it back and perhaps use the breath as an anchor or a sound. I can now hear the rain on the roof. And we'll be here for a couple more minutes. Gently and slowly guide yourself back to center. Now if you find yourself thinking, is this enough? Should I be moving more? Should this be deeper? No. Whatever your body finds is enough. But do that on the other side. So if you're lying down, stretch out the right leg, maybe shift the hips a little to the left, and encourage that left knee across the body so it lands on a cushion, and then find your twist. Same if you're seated, you can move the knees over to the opposite side, turn the body away from them. Find the twist your body needs. And have a little scan. You might find you're holding yourself tense somewhere that you haven't even realized. So perhaps you can soften a little more. Find a little extra ease. And we'll be here for another couple of minutes. Saying yes to relaxation or to softening or to pausing. Slowly and gently, coming back to center. And letting your knees come to center. If you're lying down, you might want to bring your knees into your chest. If you're lying down, we're going to come up to our knees because we're going to move into child's pose. If you're seated, you're going to want a cushion or a bolster on your knee. Now be careful how you get up if you're lying down, because when we lie for a long period, it can make us dizzy to sit up. So gently, you might roll and come up. So For a supported child's pose, you can have nothing. You can just have child's pose if you prefer. You can have a cushion, a bolster. You can have several. You can even have like a small table. Same applies seated. You can use a cushion on your knee. You can even use a table and reach onto and lean and be fully supported. You can have your knees together or wide. See what your body would like. And then, rather than actually starting from tabletop, fold over the props of your choice. And I've got mine higher today because that's what my body would like today. Fold over, and should you choose, you can either place your head straight down with your forehead on the cushion, or you can place one ear, and I'll let you know halfway through to swap sides. So we'll be here a couple of minutes before those that need to swap sides will. Have a little scan through the body and see if there's anywhere you can surrender to rest a little more. Anywhere that you can sink, soften. If anything is uncomfortable, change it so it's right for you. If your head's on one side, gently turn it and rest on the opposite side. And we'll be here for a couple of minutes on this side. Gently taking your head back to center and pushing your hands into the floor if you're on the mat, or into your knees, and if you're sitting, and rise up. Pause. Noticing. Just noticing how you feel. And then if you're on the mat, we're going to come down to lying on your belly. If you're seated, leave the cushion on your knee. We're going to have a little shoulder stretch from crocodile. So coming down to the belly, and take a brief pause in crocodile. And if you're seated, take your fists one on top of the other onto your cushion and let your head rest like that. If you're down on the mat, you can make a cushion for your head as well. Just have a few moments here. And then for the shoulder stretch, stretch out your right arm if you're lying down. If you are seated, take that right arm so that your hand is on your hip. So you're bending the right arm at the elbow and the hand is on the hip. You can do the same if you're lying down, but you can also leave it stretched out. Take your left hand flat to the mat, or if you're seated, put it on your cushion. If you're lying down, it'll be near your shoulder, and you're going to push into the mat or the cushion gently, so you have a little bit of a stretch that you might feel in that left shoulder. Very gently. We're not staying here very long. And lower it down. That's it. And swap sides. If you're seated, take your hand to your waist and your left hand to the cushion. If you're lying down, you might stretch out that left arm and take the right arm. Take the left hand to near the shoulder. Push into the mat or the cushion. Feel a gentle stretch through the shoulder. Come back out. It's not something that we stay in. And push back again to your child's pose. So if you're seated, sink over your legs. If you're on your mat, sink down to the mat. And then slowly and gently come up to seated. If you are in a chair, take your feet wider, so they're a bit wider than the width of the chair, so there's a V shape in your legs. If you're seated, take your legs wider, so they're in a V shape. You might find it's more comfortable to raise your hips a tiny bit. And one of the ways I like to do this is, instead of sitting on a cushion, if I'm on the mat, is have the cushion just at the very back of the pelvis. So it tilts the pelvis slightly. You just get that slight tilt. And you can do that yourself if you're seated. You can even put a blanket at the very back of the hips, so you just get that tilt. If your knees bend, that's fine. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to lean forward. You can either place your hands on the chair or on the mat or on a cushion and have a little lean. Or you can use a cushion, a bolster, a table, and rest. So find where it works for you. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Have a tilt in the pelvis. That stops you rounding. Have a tilt, then find your fold, and then let your body soften. If the rounding comes after the fold, that's fine. Sink and soften. We'll be a few minutes here. have a little scan through the body. Sometimes we hold so much tension with absolutely no awareness. Find a little extra softness, a little extra ease. One more minute here. Gently push back up, pause, allow yourself to notice, and then if you are on the mat, I'm going to come to sort of kneeling but then sink off the knees. Now, if that's not right for you, we'll find different options. But your knees are kind of forward and the bolster or cushion is up against the hip. In this case, it's against my right hip. It doesn't matter which side you do first. If you are seated, we're doing a kind of twist again, but we're doing it slightly differently. So if you are seated, take your knees to the side. Take them to the side of the chair, so that you can turn to the opposite side. So before you just move the knees over, but take the feet round the end of the chair so they're pointing out to the side. Then turn the body a little bit coming back and place your hands on the chair. If you are on the mat, turn the body towards the cushion. Make this as high as you want. Again, you can even use a table. If you're in a chair, you can use a table. Turn the body and walk your hands over and sink. So it's a different twist. You'll feel it in a different place. If it's not right for you the way I've suggested it, find where it feels better. If you're in a chair, you can move your chair so that you're leaning against a table. Then walk your hands down and let your body sink over your props. Doesn't matter how high it is, it just needs to be comfortable for you. Now here you've got options. You can start with your head facing forward. that's got the least twist. Use as many cushions as you need. So head facing forward, and we'll have a minute or two here first. But if you find a position you want to stay in, then stay. Scan through your body and see if you can soften a little more. Notice if you're holding tension in your shoulders. Or your spine. Or your jaw. Then either stay there or move the forehead so it's facing down, so you can make a little rest for your forehead, either on a cushion or your hands. A minute or so here. And then either stay there or turn the head away to the back, so all the way over. If that's not comfortable, bring it back. You can use your hand if that's helpful, your arm to rest on, whatever feels good. And gently turn your head back so it's facing straight down. And gently push your Hands into your knees or the chair or the floor and push yourself up. Untwisting, uncurling. Legs back to center. You might want to have a little bit of a windshield wiper of your legs. A little bit of a wiggle of your body. And swap sides. So if, like me, you're using every bolster in sight, swap them over to the opposite side. You can never have too many cushions or bolsters. Knees pointing the other way. So if it's your legs if you're sitting up, take your legs around to the opposite side and gently turn your body. If you're on the mat, turn your body and slowly fold over the props that you have, starting first with your head facing towards the front. I have a minute or so here. Scanning through your body. Noticing if there's anywhere you can soften. If you need to move and adjust, do so. There's no rules. Gently moving your head so it's facing your props, or stay where you were. Remember, you can use your hands or cushions as support. A minute or two here. And then moving your head again, either keeping it there or turning towards the back, and again using your hands or cushion for support. gently pushing back to center. And if you're lying or if you're on the mat, we're going to come to a supported butterfly. So you've got two choices. You can have the bolster, one bolster or cushion behind you to rest back on. If you do that, I find I actually like a second cushion on top, so there's like a slope. If you're seated, take the feet together, either resting on a table or a block or on the floor, and allow the knees to drop. You can have cushions under them if you wish. If you're lying down, you might want one of your bolsters to be under your knees, but the feet together and allow the knees to drop out, or you can just put cushions under the knees and then either fold back to the mat or to your extra cushions. And here you might want an extra blanket over you. Some people feel quite vulnerable in this position, and yet they find it extremely comfortable. And as you know, you may remember, it links to open pose. But it's also a beautiful stretch in the form of a reclined butterfly. So here, find where is best for you. And scan through the body and notice where you can soften. Notice why you might need extra support. And then sink with heaviness. I'm going to be a few minutes here, but after a couple of minutes, I'm going to come and guide a meditation. And at that point, you can either stay exactly where you are or move to Shavasana with the legs straight and move the extra cushions, whichever feels best for you. But first, have a couple of minutes here. So we're going to move to a guided meditation practice, but you can use this for deep relaxation. So either stay exactly where you are, or move to a rested posture that you prefer, or sit tall. Whatever is right for you today. I'm going to come and sit up, but I'd like you to be as relaxed as possible. Allowing yourself to be heavy. Notice the contact with the earth, as you sit or lie. Gravity pulling you down. The earth pushing up to support you. Perhaps you can soften down a little more. Perhaps you can find a little extra ease. Inhaling, sensing inner strength. Exhaling, perhaps saying yes to this journey. Growing, rebuilding, with softness, with care. You might visualize roots down into the earth, supporting you there and nurturing you. You might ask, what would it be like to say yes to a little more support? Bringing your attention inwards. Inwards to yourself as a body. This beautiful body which you are. Greeting. Saying hello. Noticing the warmth within. Sensing the base of the skull at the back of your neck. Perhaps you can imagine deep softening here. Relaxation. And then a gentle lengthening. Letting go of tension. Let your awareness glide over your body, down to the legs, the arms, the backs of the hands. Allowing yourself an awareness of a shift between the outer world around you and the inner world. Your inner world. Perhaps your attention can rest here on your breath. Sensing into the feel and flow of the breath. The expansiveness of the in-breath. The relaxation of the out-breath. Inhaling. Sensing inner strength. Exhaling. Saying yes to this journey. Growing. Rebuilding. With softness. With care. Perhaps here you can bring some thought to your own inner strength, the power that is you. within you. And then notice how your body responds to this suggestion of inner strength. This suggestion that you are strong and you are powerful. And notice softness. Notice ease. Strength and softness side by side. Perhaps feeling into both of them at once. Inhaling. Sensing inner strength. Exhaling. Saying yes to this journey. Growing. Rebuilding. With softness and with care. Coming back to the body, into the body and through the body. Anchoring your awareness here and now as a body. Perhaps you can sense or imagine the crown of the head, the scalp, and notice any sensations here. Warmth, cold, tingling. Awareness of your eyes. Can they sink and soften a little more deeply? Perhaps the muscles around them can find a little extra ease. Your face melting, softening, the mouth. Perhaps you can sense or feel the gap between your upper teeth and lower teeth, and bringing a little extra softness. Notice the gap widen a little more. Sensing, imagining the lips, the tongue. Feeling into it soften, relaxing. Inhaling, sensing inner strength. Exhaling, saying yes to this journey. Growing, rebuilding with softness, with care. Noticing the back of the neck, the tops of the shoulders. Sensing or imagining into the shoulders and the shoulder blades, the weight of the arms, down through the elbows to the wrists, the backs of the hands, sensing or imagining into the hands, the palms, the fingers and thumbs. Inhaling, sensing inner strength. exhaling, saying yes to this journey, growing, rebuilding with softness, with care. Sensing or imagining into the chest, feeling the heart, the lungs. Sensing into the belly, the pelvis, and the length of the spine. Feeling expansion through the body and softening with ease. Inhaling, sensing inner strength. Exhaling, saying yes to this journey, growing, rebuilding with softness, with care. Sensing or imagining the legs, the weight and volume of the legs through the hip joints, down through the knees, the lower legs and ankles, the tops of the feet and the toes. Perhaps as you notice, they soften a little more. Sensing into deep relaxation. Inhaling, sensing inner strength. Exhaling, saying yes to this journey, growing, rebuilding with softness, with care. Feeling the whole body here, noticing being the whole body. Finding softness, finding ease, and allowing yourself to rest here for the next couple of minutes. Inhaling, sensing your inner strength. Exhaling, saying yes to your journey. Growing, rebuilding, with softness, with self-care. Perhaps take a moment to thank yourself as a body for each experience, for this practice. An invitation to deepen your breath. Take a hand to heart, a hand to belly. Notice what your body might need right now. Any movements or stretches. And then slowly and gently, as you are ready, come back to where we began. For anybody watching the recording, thank you for joining us. I'm going to stop it now and check in with the Zoom room, and we will see you soon.